Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Dirk here. Happy New Year. First video of 2020. And do we have a beautiful knife to show you guys today? This is a knife by Pohl Force made by Lion Steel. This is the Force 1 Titanium. This one is unique because it has a bunch of hand engraving work done aftermarket. So this came as just a standard stonewashed titanium scaled knife that was then sent off to an engraver to have a bunch of custom hand engraved work done on both the show side and the lock side. So let's jump right into the specs first and then talk about give you some close-ups and talk about the engraving and the intricacies of this particular knife. This is a new, not a new brand, but a new brand to me, a new maker to me, that I really didn't know much about. So let's jump into the specs and then we'll talk about the maker. So closed length is 6.5 inches. What kills me is if you look online, you get anywhere from 6.5 to 7.5 inch closed length. So I'm not sure how you measure this differently, but 6.5 inches is what I measure. With an overall length of 11.375. So it's a little bit big. Again, not the biggest in my collection though. So the blade length is 4.85. Again, I'm not sure how they measure. Some websites say it's 5.5, I think. So I measured from the edge of the scale to the tip at 4.85 with an edge length right here at the choil of 4.5 inches edge length. The blade thickness, again, on the website says 0.22. I measure it at 0.21. This is a Nylox steel blade that I didn't know much about. I have done a little bit of research, and it's a fine grade steel, so it has a super great edge retention, but it has the wear resistance of D2. So it's in that D2 family, I guess. I'm not really sure, but I've heard read some really good reviews about the steel in general. So, but it is a Nylox steel, and it weighs in at, again, the websites are different, but I measure it here. I weigh it here at 14.8 ounces. Not light. Again, not my heaviest. We'll get to that probably on Friday. I've got something special coming on Friday. It is unique in the fact that it has this, what they call it, the open-close safety locking system. So right now in the closed position, it's locked. It is solid. It moves just a hair. You need to pull back on the locking system, releasing the pin, swing the blade out, the pin spring loads back in, and now it is completely solid, and there is no blade play in any direction. Super solid lockup. And then to close it again, pull back on the pin, close it, and then it locks into place. So it did come also with a lanyard. Not a big lanyard guy, but this is their like logo bead, EOD bead. It comes with this, Cordura type case with the rubber patch, Euro Ops Division of Pohl Force. And then their little sticker. So the maker, or the designer, is Dietmar Pohl, who is known for a lot of movie knives. And this knife was made for, designed for and made for a movie. I recently, just as of this morning, got a message from Pohl Force saying that they couldn't tell me much about the movie yet. So I guess it hasn't come out. I don't know. This blade was just introduced, I think, 2 years ago. I will link to a video below where Dietmar talks about this knife and how they came about designing it and whatnot. So I will link that below in the description. But Dietmar is, and Pool Force is famous for making the knives for Rambo Last Blood, of which a good friend of mine has 2 of theirs. So they also made knives for Nicolas Cage in Cops Under Fire movie, for Gerard Butler for both Angel Has Fallen and London Has Fallen, and then The Mechanic 2 for Jason Statham. So they've got, and then there's some other movies as well. So check those out. This is a brand I didn't know much about other than the Rambo Last Blood. I knew about those ones. So how I got this knife is kind of interesting. A random gentleman from Austria hit me up on Facebook and said, hey, I've got this knife if you're interested in it. It looks like it might fit in your collection. Sent me a couple of pictures, sent me a video. I looked at it. I didn't know much about it. I asked a good friend of mine who is more familiar with this brand, and he goes, dude, get it. It's an awesome knife. It's kind of desirable. They don't make a lot. They made 200. This is number, I don't know if it'll focus in here, 161 of 200. I'll give you some shots of this engraving. And so I got the knife from the gentleman in Austria. Took about a month to ship to me here in Northern California. So I've had it for about a week, maybe 10 days. Carried it once or twice. It is big in the pocket. It, you know, I'm not gonna lie, you feel it during the day. It has a great clip, a super, like, I don't know if you can get much of a deeper pocket clip than that. You're there. It does have this carbon or carbide tungsten glass breaker. The engraver actually engraved the little leaf on the clip. A couple of crows on either side. And just, I mean, for hand engraved work, amazing. So I actually was able to track down the engraver, again, also on Facebook, a gentleman from Spain. He knew exactly what knife I was talking about when I sent a quick picture and said, hey, can you tell me anything about it? He did. His name is Antonio Marcillo, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. But he actually sent me a couple of pictures, which I will splice in at the end of the video, of it in its kind of raw form. He had the scales off and he had just done some of the engraving. I also found a video that he did on his Facebook, which I will link down in the description, of how he engraves. It's not a video of this particular knife, but it is of him engraving on another knife. So it's, I know it's not a hammer and a chisel, but that's the best way I can describe it, is it's kind of hammer and chiseling the engraving. So check that out for sure, because it's just really interesting. Everything about this knife is interesting. So it's made by a company, Lion Steel. And Lion Steel, again, is kind of, again, not new. They've been around since 1960, but they're new to me. I didn't know much about them. They're actually the company that came out with the first production integral knife. So that was kind of interesting to see and learn about. So they make some really cool knives as well that I'm going to be having to check out now that I know about them. So kind of just a really beautiful knife. It's totally different from my collection. I am not sure or sold on this opening. The way the designer talks about it is because of the size of the blade and the massiveness of the knife, it was kind of required. So to make sure it was safe in your pocket and it didn't accidentally deploy. I've got some big heavy knives and I've never had any issues, but I don't know. Plus these are made in Italy, and that could be a legal regulation there in Italy. I know that outside of California and outside the US, there's a lot of different knife regulations. So it could be something to do with that as well. But other than that, I love it. I just am not sold on this particular opening and closing style. The closing style is fine. It's very much like a Benchmade access lock, actually. I'm not sure that we can show it here, but let's see if we can get, it's a little dark. There is a pin that pulls back, and then when you close the knife, there's a little bump here that the stop pin, I guess for lack of better words, springs back into to give it that completely solid lockup. See if we can hear it here. It sucks it in really good. So this isn't going anywhere. It does carry okay in the pocket, but it is heavy. You're going to feel it. But check it out. Check on the links below, and you can see a couple of videos of the engraving and of Dietmar Pohl talking about this, you know, the inception of this knife. Really beautiful. It's great to have in my collection. Is it a keeper? It just doesn't really fit in my collection, so I may not keep it. I may pass it along to a really good buddy who is super into Pohl knives. But for now, sorry man, I'm gonna hold on to it for a little bit longer at least, because it's just such a unique knife that I just can't stop, you know, kind of fiddling with and looking at. So anyway, you guys have a super great New Year's Day and a great 2020, and we will see you next time. Thanks a lot.